If you're still working for money, you're already losing. Know the truth nobody taught you. In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert T. Kiyosaki reveals the mistake that is keeping you poor, and how to fix it, you will learn now. Let me tell you a story about two fathers who taught completely opposite rules about money, and only one of them became truly rich. I grew up with two fathers, and even as a child, I could feel that something about them was fundamentally different. It wasn't just their personalities, and it wasn't just their careers. It was the way they saw the world, the way they spoke about money, about risk, about life itself. One of them believed deeply in security. He believed that education, a stable job, and a steady paycheck were the keys to a good life. And in many ways, he was respected for that. He worked hard, earned well, and did everything society told him was right. But despite all of that, there was always a quiet tension around money, a constant concern about expenses, about the future, about whether it would all be enough. The other father had a completely different way of thinking. He didn't talk about job security. He talked about opportunity. He didn't focus on earning more money through work. He focused on creating ways for money to come to him. He didn't fear mistakes. He expected them, learned from them, and used them as stepping stones. And over time, I began to realize something that would later shape my entire life. The difference between them was not intelligence, not education, not effort. It was mindset. As a child, I didn't fully understand it, but I noticed patterns. One father would say, "I can't afford it." The other would say, "How can I afford it?" One closed the door on possibilities, the other opened it. And that small difference in language created a massive difference in outcomes. This is not just a story about two people. This is a story about two ways of thinking, two paths, two futures. And whether you realize it or not, you are following one of them right now. But here's where most people get it wrong. Chapter 1. Lesson 1. The rich don't work for money. When I was young, I thought money was everything. I believed that if I had enough of it, all my problems would disappear. So naturally, I wanted to learn how to get rich as quickly as possible. One day, my friend and I decided that we would figure it out ourselves. We tried small ideas, little experiments, thinking we could somehow create money from nothing. And when those ideas failed, we turned to one of my fathers for guidance. What I expected was a simple answer: work hard, study, follow the path. But what I got instead was something I didn't understand at the time. He said, "If you want to learn how to be rich, don't work for money." That sentence confused me. How could you not work for money? Isn't that what everyone does? But as I grew older, I began to understand the deeper meaning behind it. Most people are controlled by two powerful emotions when it comes to money: fear and desire. Fear of not having enough pushes them to work harder, to cling to security, to avoid risks. And desire for more comfort, more status, more things, pushes them to spend everything they earn. And this creates a cycle, a loop that repeats over and over again. You wake up, you go to work, you earn money, then you pay bills, you buy things, and your money disappears. Then fear returns, and you go back to work. This is the cycle that traps millions of people for their entire lives. And they don't even realize they are trapped, because it feels normal. The wealthy see this cycle differently. They don't let money control their decisions. They don't chase it blindly. Instead, they step back and ask a different question. How can money be made to work for me? This is where everything begins to change. Because the moment you stop seeing money as something you chase and start seeing it as something you control, your entire perspective shifts. You begin to think differently. You begin to act differently. And most importantly, you begin to break free from the cycle that keeps everyone else stuck. Chapter 2. Lesson 2. Why financial literacy matters. As I grew older, I realized that one of the biggest reasons people struggle financially has nothing to do with how much money they earn. It has everything to do with what they understand. Financial literacy is not taught in schools. You can go through years of education, earn degrees, build a career, and still not understand the basic rules of money. You can earn a high income and still live paycheck to paycheck. And this is not rare. It's incredibly common. At the core of financial literacy is a simple idea: understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. It sounds basic, almost too basic to matter, but it is one of the most powerful concepts you will ever learn. An asset is something that puts money into your pocket consistently. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That's it. That's the definition. But the confusion comes from how people perceive things. And this is the part nobody talks about. Many people believe that their home is their biggest asset. They believe that their car, their possessions, their lifestyle upgrades are signs of success. But if those things are constantly costing money, if they require payments, maintenance, or debt, then they are not assets. They are liabilities. And this is where the trap deepens. As people earn more, they don't buy more assets. They buy more liabilities, bigger houses, better cars, more expensive lifestyles. And with each new purchase, their financial pressure increases. The wealthy, on the other hand, focus on acquiring assets first. They build sources of income that do not depend on their time: investments, businesses, systems. And once those assets generate enough income, they use that income to support their lifestyle. This is the difference between appearing wealthy and actually being wealthy. One is built on spending, the other is built on understanding. Chapter 3. Lesson 3. Mind your own business. One of the most misunderstood ideas in building wealth is the concept of your business. Most people think their job is their business. They define themselves by their position, their salary, their employer. But your job is not your business. Your job is what pays your bills. Your business is what builds your future. This is where the shift must happen. If all your time and energy goes into your job, then your income is always tied to your effort. If you stop working, the income stops. And that means you are always dependent on something external. But when you begin to build your own assets, your own systems, your own sources of income, something changes. You begin to create independence. You begin to build something that grows even when you are not actively working on it. This does not happen overnight. It starts small: a side project, an investment, a skill that turns into opportunity. But over time, those small steps begin to compound. And eventually, your business, your true business, becomes the foundation of your wealth. Chapter 4. Lesson 4. Understanding the system. There is a system that governs how money flows in the world, and most people go through life without ever understanding it. They work, they earn, they pay taxes, they spend, and they assume that this is simply how life works. But there are different paths within that system, different ways to operate, and those who understand the system play the game differently. They don't just work harder, they work smarter. They structure their income differently. They invest, they build, they create. The key lesson here is simple. If you don't understand the system, you will always be reacting to it. But if you take the time to learn it, you can begin to work with it, and eventually benefit from it. Chapter 5. Lesson 5. The power of thinking differently. The most powerful tool you have is not money, it is your mind. The way you think determines the way you act, and the way you act determines your results. When faced with a challenge, most people immediately shut down. They say, "I can't afford it." And in that moment, their brain stops working. It accepts limitation as reality. But when you ask, how can I afford it? Something different happens. Your mind begins to search, to explore, to create. This is how opportunities are found. Not by waiting, but by thinking differently. Chapter 6. Lesson 6. Work to learn. In the early stages of your journey, the most valuable thing you can do is learn, not just technical skills, but real-world skills. Communication, negotiation, sales, understanding people, understanding markets. These are the skills that allow you to navigate the world of money effectively. Money can come and go, but skills stay with you. They grow, they compound, and they open doors that you didn't even know existed. Chapter 7. Overcoming obstacles. Every journey has obstacles: fear, doubt, uncertainty. These are not signs that you should stop. They are signs that you are moving forward. Most people stop when things become uncomfortable. They retreat back into safety. But growth happens in discomfort. It happens when you push through, when you learn, when you adapt. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to act despite it. Chapter 8. Getting started. You don't need perfect conditions to begin. You don't need large amounts of money. You don't need to know everything. You need to start. Start small. Learn as you go. Build gradually. Stay consistent. Because over time, consistency beats intensity. Small steps, repeated daily, create massive results. Chapter 9. Continuing the journey. This is not a one-time decision. It is a lifelong journey, a continuous process of learning, growing, and adapting. The more you understand, the more opportunities you see. The more you act, the more confident you become. And slowly, your life begins to change. Final message. At the end of the day, this is not just about money. It is about freedom. The freedom to choose your path, to control your time, to live without constant pressure. Most people will hear this and move on, but a few will act. And those who act are the ones who build something different, something lasting. Because the moment you stop working only for money and begin building a life where money works for you, everything changes. And that is the moment your life truly begins. Like and subscribe if you want to learn more about finance and personal development.